the Prophet ﷺ migrated to Medina, he first went to a place called Quba, which came first, and it is on the outskirts of the city of Medina. It was considered its own sort of settlement and its own municipality, you can say, at that time. He, alayhi salatu wassalam, stayed there for just a few days. And the first thing he did was to lay down the foundations of a masjid. And this masjid is known to all of us as Masjid Quba. A few days later, when he set out to Medina proper, it was Jum'ah. And Jum'ah would come on the way into Medina. So the Prophet ﷺ stopped at one place and offered Salat al-Jum'ah. And the place where he offered Jum'ah became also a masjid, which is known till today as Masjid al-Jum'ah. Then he proceeded further, and on the way, people from various tribes of the Ansar were approaching him, and everyone wanted him to go to their neighborhood and settle with them. And these people were trying to give the Prophet ﷺ various incentives. Some would say, "O Prophet of Allah, come and stay with us. We have the strongest fighters and we have the largest number of fighters." Someone else would come and say, "O Prophet of Allah, we have the most camels." Another tribe would come and say, "O Prophet of Allah, we have the most date trees and gardens." Like this, each group was coming, and their chief was trying to convince the Prophet ﷺ. And in their desire to have the Prophet ﷺ come and stay with them, some of them would hold the reins of his camel and request him in that way. The Prophet ﷺ would tell them that just leave it. It has its instructions from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, the Prophet ﷺ proceeds, and the camel takes him right into the actual city of Medina. And the actual city of Medina at that time was, in fact, just that area which is covered by Masjid Nabawi and the marbled area around it. That was basically all of Medina. And there were small streets, tiny houses, a little bit of space for some gardens and things like that, but it was quite densely built. And his camel stops at this place, and there's some open ground there, and it sits down. Then it gets up and goes to the house of Abu Ayyub al-Ansari radiyallahu anhu, where he used to live. And there's a long story behind why the camel actually went there, and why not anyone else's house. But the Prophet ﷺ inquired about that land, that sort of small open field where the camel had first stopped. So people told him that this is a land that belongs to two young boys, Sahal and Suhail. The Prophet ﷺ said, "I wish to build a masjid here." So the boys offered their land as a gift, as a donation. The Prophet ﷺ did not accept their donation because they were young boys, they were orphan boys, but he paid them a handsome amount of money for that land. And immediately the foundation of the masjid was laid. Look at the Prophet ﷺ's attention on establishing a place of prayer. It was given more importance than his own residence. Where's my family going to stay? I'm coming here to a new city. I need to make arrangements. The first step that he took was to establish a masjid. Then as he was moving, he established another masjid in the form of Masjid al-Jum'ah. Then when he reached, he established another masjid. And he simply stayed as a guest of Abu Ayyub al-Ansari radiyallahu anhu for about half a year or so. Now, establishing a masjid is actually establishing salat, establishing the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's giving importance to that over everything else in one's life, over all one's other needs. The need to be connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and fulfill one's duties to Him. Somewhere in this are many important messages for us. Amongst them, the importance of establishing salah no matter where we are. Whether we are in an environment where we're close to a masjid or we are far away from a masjid, to establish salah. And in current circumstances where we cannot go to masajid here in Australia, at least in Victoria, it becomes important for us to make a masjid in our homes and to have adhan and iqama and timings where everyone in the house knows that this is the time for salat. This is the very least we could do in these circumstances. Most of us are deprived from the reward of going and praying with jama'ah. But if we work hard and create that kind of environment in our own homes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward us immensely. And the environment of our home will change. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy will descend on these homes. Malaika will surround these homes. And shaitan will run away. Shaitan runs away from the adhan. Troubles will flee these homes. And the barakah and the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will enter these homes. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to be from those people who establish salah no matter where they go. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to populate and beautify our homes with sujood and ruku' and qiyam and tilawat of Quran. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.